welcome, Collin. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Peter. Really excited to be here and chat about indoor health.
That sounds great. Well, I wanted to start with you growing up. So tell us, where you grew up, and I imagine that you didn't always want to help bring nature into our built environments, but gives a sense of what you wanted to do as a kid and what growing up was like for you.
Uh, Hometown is Allentown, Pennsylvania. So kind of an old Rust Belt steel town. And I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial vibe. First lemonade stand at 6 on the way to a girls softball field. And so lots of vehicles driving by, started roasting corn on the cob as another summer job. So I've always loved entrepreneurship and business and transaction and product, but definitely didn't really have a lens of purpose yet. So it was kind of just doing stuff to make money or to have fun. Went right out to business school and quickly discovered that capitalism is kind of aimless. And I think we'll struggled a bit there, finding my place in this business world, seeing a lot of short-term thinking, seeing a lot of linear thinking, ultimately got a little dissatisfied with that world. And so that ultimately is what started my journey on regenerative business, circular business, biomimetic stuff, and ultimately what I'm up to today.
Do you already have the idea for Biome at that point, or are you then going off to school and starting to integrate that more? Tell us about the early days of Biome.
The pre-biome environment was, I'm going to go back to school because I want to leverage a university's resources to kickstart something, probably a business. So knowing that I wanted to start a company, what I actually wanted to study was the natural systems, right? Like study these natural processes and then try to essentially mimic them, right? Copy this intelligence into the modern world, modern products, modern systems. And so kind of coined a little while ago, this idea of biomimicry being an academic program. And so I actually wrote and created the first undergraduate degree in biomimetics, which was essentially a combination of bio and chem with some independent studies thrown in, as well as product design, engineering, and entrepreneurship on the mimicry side of this. And during the biochem sections, I started to think more and more about like application. What does it look like to bring something to market in this field? And the other kernel of this was I was also building a living wall in my apartment in Philadelphia at the time. So I was at Drexel University where they offer this custom degree program. And at my apartment off campus, I was just needing more nature. I was like really struggling with crap. I'm back in a city. I'm in an apartment. There's no nature around. So felt really cut off. Right. And that plant wall sucked. I mean, it like ruined the floor, the wood flooring, it leaked, it got moldy, the plants died. It's like everything that could go wrong did. And that was a kernel in my mind of like, it should be way easier to bring a lot of nature into a space. And with that kind of personal lens in my curriculum, the idea was, well, these biological systems do so much for us, right? And, if you actually pull air through the root system of a plant, you'll metabolize more air pollution. And so there's all these biooptimizations involved as well. So if you could bring technology into that biological system, you can do significantly more things than nature used to do on its own, because plants don't have access to these tools, right? Plants don't have access to computer systems to optimize themselves, but we can. And so this idea of marrying these two kind of disparate worlds into something more powerful than either kind of came about. And through the program, then I started to build a business model around what does it look like to scale biomass. And at that point, carbon credits outdoors weren't really a thing yet, even though we thought that's a really cool long-term play. So knowing we may want to get there in the future, that's going to require autonomy of plant care. It's going to require us to be able to deliver to plants water, nutrients, data, power, light, consistently and reliably for what any plant needs.
at the most simple level, what is, and we'll just take the Taiga, your kind of flagship
Hmm.
product, and I know you've got a bunch of them, but how does it work? What are the components? Just outside of the sensors, just what
Hmm.
what makes that product?
Yeah. I think the easiest way to start is that we build an appliance. We are a sheet metal device that kind of mimics the format of a TV, super thin profile, mounts on your wall, plug it in. And inside of that hardware device is all the infrastructure needed for multi-year hydroponic growing. So really different from like an at-home herb grow kit or like a vertical farming, platform, right? Most food growing tech is really designed to have a seed start, grow to completion, harvest it, kill it, sterilize your system, redo it, right? And so you're not necessarily super focused on how does your water quality shift over 5 years in a recirculating hydroponic system. So the kind of unique problems set that we're solving in these devices is, an integrated recirculating water system that lasts for decades in a stable pH, stable nutritional load. The salts stay balanced. So water chemistry is a huge component of these embedded systems. And then within that, we've got water distribution and irrigation inside the device. It's all fully automated. There's a bunch of sensors that help us track water consumption and usage over time. We can read water chemistry and understand how that's might be changing.
I'm curious on the public benefit corporation side. Clearly, you mentioned that you now have a second bottom line of providing clean air that may morph into just increasing biomass, and that's the lens through which you and your executive team makes decisions. And it sounds like that would provide you all the creative and legal freedom to make decisions differently than other companies might. What have been the practical impacts, either in the boardroom and within your team? What have you seen? How have you seen public benefit corporation impact those discussions and the ethos around your team?
Mhm. Two things, maybe three. One, as an early stage company, there's there's maybe less necessity for being a PBC because you still own most of the shares, right? You can still steer the ship without having a ton of buy-in. You're not going to get fired because you probably still own 51% or more. So at the first glance, this is more of a tool to protect and I'd say cultivate a multi-generational company and to ensure that it has the ability to evolve into something that doesn't become a short-termist entity that is destructive, which I think there are plenty of examples of. I don't need to name names. So I think this is a long-term play. What it creates, though, in the short term is conversations with our investors around how we think, how we perceive the world, what's important. And in a way, it is an incredibly wonderful way of excluding the wrong investors because
Mm.
a lot of traditional capital doesn't want to see that. And maybe they're waking up to it a little bit more. But what we have found over the past 10 years is we only want to work with investors that want this world as well, that want to see these things taken care of.